farming fuel in Illuvium Zero, scanning for blueprints in Illuvium Zero, playing the Leviathan Arena, playing in the Ascendant Arena, Illuvium Esports, trading ILV, swapping SILV2 and ILV, staking ILV and ETH in the Sushi liquidity pool, Illuvatars, trading on the Illuvidex, playing the Overworld, having a sponsorship program, making Illuvium content, and flipping Illuvium merch. I've set up a tier list, and I'm going to be ranking all of these ways to earn money in Illuvium through the year 2023. You might be surprised at some of my picks here. Alright, so these are going to be in no particular order. I'll just shuffle them around a little bit right here. So you can see we have 4 categories. We have the top picks, which I think are the best bet here. Your high risk, high reward, solid strategy, and too risky. And I'm going to try my best to actually line them up within these categories as well. As always, none of this is financial advice, and this is going to be my opinion for the year 2023. So beyond 2023, this might change, and I actually think it will. So just keep in mind how I rank these right now is based on what I think 2023 will bring. All right, so let's start with farming fuel in Illuvium Zero. I'm going to go with solid strategy. Now, the game's not out yet, and even when the alpha drops for Illuvium Zero, we're still not going to be able to farm fuel until the main game comes out. That should be coming out at some point in 2023, hopefully sometime in the middle of the year. But in order to play the main game, players are going to have to buy fuel, and that fuel they're going to buy is going to be off of the farmed fuel from the Illuvium Zero players. So there's really not much risk in farming fuel, assuming you already have the land. There could be a little risk involved with purchasing the land because you don't know how quick you're going to get that return on investment. But assuming you have the land, I think it's a solid strategy to just farm fuel. Now let's stick with Illuvium Zero. So now we have blueprints here. Blueprints, I'm going to put in high risk, high reward. Because in Illuvium Zero, you're going to have 2 avenues to really go through. You're going to have the farming fuel, and you're going to have searching and scanning for blueprints. Now, when it comes to blueprints, they're going to be pretty rare, but when you get them, it's going to be worth it. You can hold on to the blueprints yourself and craft skins out of it, and then sell those skins to other players in the Illuvium world. And depending on what you get, it could be worth quite a bit. So that's why I'm putting it in this high risk, high reward. It's more of like a gamble. You could play for months and maybe not get any of these blueprints, and it would have been a safer bet to farm for fuel. But I think a lot of people, especially in this space, are willing to take that gamble. And if they do get a blueprint, especially if it's like a blueprint for a tier 5 alluvial, I think it'll be worth it. So if you want to be risky, that could be the route you take. All right, Illuvatars. I am also going to throw this into the high risk, high reward section here, because Illuvatars is going to be like opening a pack of cards. I always think back to Pokemon because Pokemon was something that I was involved in. But you could open a pack of cards and get, a Charizard, or you could open a pack of cards and just get something that's not worth shit. So it's going to be the same thing here. If you open that disc for Illuvatars and you get a Ramfire or another tier 5 portrait and maybe some rare accessories, and it could possibly be worth a lot of money, you could also just constantly be pulling tier 1 alluvials that might not be as rare. Now, the longer your timeline when it comes to Illuvatars, I think it gets less risky over time. If you're looking out, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I think it becomes a lot less risky. But since we're just going with the year 2023, I think if you're not pulling one of those tier 5s or rare portraits, then it does get a little risky for you. All right, so here's a little fun one. Merch flipping. So we know merch is going to come out soon. We have these plushies. There's going to be a lot of apparel that could be coming out. But if you're thinking of merch flipping, I'm going to say don't count on getting any return on this. As far as I know, there's not going to be a limited supply of any of this. And even when you think about plushies, the big collectible thing when I was a kid was the Beanie Babies. And honestly, they're still not worth very much, even though a lot of people thought they would be. So if you're going to buy merch, buy it for you. I wouldn't count on trying to flip that for any sort of money. So that's going to be cool. I'm going to be buying some merch myself, but don't look at that as an investment. All right, so next we're going to look at esports. Now, there is a lot of money in esports, but very few people capitalize on that. So I'm going to put it as too risky. Now, if you think you are going to be a top player or you can prove that you're already a top player in this space, it might be something to look into. But in the year 2023, I'm not sure there's going to be that many big tournaments. And in order to make some good money in these tournaments, you're going to have to be literally probably a top 25, maybe even top 10 player to make anything out of this. And you might end up spending a lot of alluvials to get a good deck, and you're going to spend a lot of time practicing. So I think this is beyond the high risk, high reward section, and I think it's just a little too risky if you're looking for a way to make money in Illuvium. So let's go over to the Leviathan Arena. Now this is going to be the section of the game where you can actually put up a wager and go one-on-one against another player. I'm going to put this in the high risk, high reward because there's really no limit to it. I mean, as far as we know, there's still some unknowns about the Leviathan Arena. But if you're going into a match and you put a wager of 1 ETH against somebody, and you're willing to take that risk, and the other person's willing to take that risk, in a matter of 10, 15 minutes, you could be 1 ETH richer. So there's definitely a high reward there, but it's just like any kind of gamble that you're going to take, and you could easily just lose it. But I also think of this as like poker, where if you're winning 55% of your matches, you're going to end up a winner over time. So very high risk, very high reward. If you're a good player with a lot of money to not only bet, but to pick up those top alluvials on the Illuvia decks, then go for it. I'm going to give it a try a little bit, but I'm not sure that's going to be a long-term strategy. All right, let's go staking ILV. Staking ILV, I'm going to put in a solid strategy. The reason that it's not in a top pick is because of our timeline here. In 2023, we're still looking at probably before the next bull market kicks off for crypto. The APY for staking ILV is pretty low. I think we're down to about 12% right now. So if you're staking ILV, you're probably not looking too much at that APY. You're probably hoping for some revenue distribution, and I think that will come. If the game launches mid-2023, you're looking at 6 months of Rev Dis. And again, you're not going to have the hype of a bull market, so I don't think our player base is going to grow that quickly where you're going to get a ton of return on your investment. But I do think it's fairly safe if you believe in the Illuvium ecosystem. So that's why I'm sticking with a solid strategy for staking your ILV. Now, staking SLP, I'm actually going to put this as a top pick. And the reason is, when you stake SLP, so that is putting basically half ILV with half Ethereum and using that as liquidity for the sushi liquidity pool. So the APY on this is still, I believe, about 80-85% APY. So you are getting a pretty good return on that. You do get some revenue distribution based on the ILV portion of that. So when you're thinking of staking an SLP versus ILV, you're going to get about half of the Rev Dis that you would get just staking ILV, but you're going to get about 8 times the APY. And then the other thing you got to consider is that it's paired with Ethereum. And Ethereum is one of the top cryptocurrencies out there. If there's any crypto that's less volatile, you basically have Bitcoin and you have Ethereum. So seeing as through 2023, we'll still be, not quite into the next bull market, Ethereum is going to keep that pool a little less volatile for you. So now we have this one, swapping ILV and SILV. I'm going to put this in high risk, high reward. So something I've learned from being in Fancy Birds, where they have a similar tokenomics in their games already out. They have FNC and SFNC. The SILV2 will be pegged to ILV for in-game purchases. So once the game is out, it really doesn't make any sense for you to pay for in-game purchases in Ethereum or USDC if that's an option. It really just makes sense for you to buy SILV2 on the open market and spend that in-game. So depending on the demand of the game, a lot of people are going to be buying this SILV2. And in Fancy Birds, I've seen their synthetic token get up to 99% of their main token, but I've also seen it fluctuate down to about 50%, 60%. So if you think you can find those high volume times and low volume times where you could be buying the SILV2 for 50% of an ILV, knowing that there's a land sale or an Illuvitar sale coming up, and then that SILV2 gets bought up and it's closer to 90% of an ILV, then you could sell off a little bit and then wait till it drops back down. Again, just like trading any coin, that's going to be a little risky. I think I'm going to try that out, to be honest with you. Now let's go with making content for Illuvium. I threw this one in there just because, for me, through this bear market, I've been making YouTube content. And there's a lot of metrics that show when the crypto bull market comes back, not only do the coins and the NFTs go back up in price, but people who make content on YouTube about those coins and NFTs and games like Illuvium also get a big boost as well. And you don't want to start beyond 2023 when a bull market comes, because then it's going to be a little too late. You want to build up making that content, whether it's YouTube or writing articles, or even if you're just making memes and being involved in the Illuvium community. You want to set a base through 2023, so when we get into that next bull market, you're one of the top content creators that people want to follow when they're getting into Illuvium. So the Ascendant Arena, I'm going to put this in a solid strategy. While it's unclear if there's any kind of play and earn aspect of Illuvium, it has been mentioned that there is going to be an allocation of the coins for in-game yield. My guess is that's going to come in the Ascendant Arena. The reason why I don't think it's too risky is because all of the Illuvials are going to be standardized or neutralized in there. So in the Leviathan Arena, you can have a Ramfire with the best stats and you're going to dominate somebody who just has a Ramfy. But when you go to the Ascendant Arena, any Ramfy is going to be able to match up with any Ramfire because the Ascendant Arena allows you to pick any stage of that Illuvial. So it's not going to cost a lot up front to get involved in this, and you could be making some sort of a yield just from playing and even more from winning. Unlike esports, I don't think you're going to have to be a top 10 player. It might even be a top 5,000 player to make a little extra on that. So I'm going to go with solid strategy. So trading ILV, I'm going to put in the high risk, high reward. Just like trading any coin or stock or anything like that, you really never know where you're going to get. But how I'm looking at this, different from staking ILV, when I'm saying trading ILV, I mean buying it and not locking it up in any staking protocol. So it's liquid for you to sell whenever you need to. You know, there could be a high risk because let's say the game comes out mid-2023 and there's a big pump to the coin and the coin 5x's. You can easily just sell some off and make a good return on that. Where if you're staked, your coins might be locked up and you won't be able to do anything with them. But then on the other hand, if the coin goes down or even if it just stays flat, you're not making any staking rewards, you're not making any revenue distribution, you're just holding onto coins. So again, if you get a big pump, it could be worth it, but otherwise it might be too risky. All right, so the Illuvidex. Trading NFTs on the Illuvidex. So you're trading Illuvials, you're trading Illuvitars, trading land. I'm going to say this is too risky. And it's because I've seen this in other games. There are always patches that come with, in this example, it'll be Illuvials, where it's too strong, then they get weaker, or a weak Illuvial that gets stronger. When a new set comes out of, Illuvitars or Illuvials, that could help make an Illuvial better. It could help make an Illuvial worse. It's hard to predict those things. And the last thing you want is to see that like a Malura is one of the top Illuvials in the game. So you want to buy it because everybody wants it and hope it goes up. But you could buy it and then the patch notes could come out and they could have nerfed Malura. And then all of a sudden you're kind of stuck with an Illuvial that you didn't really want for your deck. So obviously there is a chance you could make some money in this, but to me, I think the reward is not worth the risk. So I'm putting it in this too risky category. So now we have the Overworld. I think playing the Overworld is going to be a top pick. And I'm actually going to put that as the overall top pick. The Overworld might be the only thing in this tier list that actually takes time to acquire assets. That makes it a lot safer than everything else. So you're not buying coins, you're not buying any other NFTs. You're spending time in the game to get these resources and get these Illuvials. So when you buy fuel and shards to travel, you obviously don't know what you're going to come across out in the Overworld. But really, no matter what you get, it's likely that that's going to cost you less money than it would be if you just bought it straight out on the Illuvidex because you're spending your time to get it. Now, we know some people don't have too much time, but if you have the time, I really think putting it into fuel, shards, and going out in the Overworld is going to be your best bet to get a return. And then last but not least, I have sponsorships. Now this fits in with that Overworld. You could use a sponsor, or another word would be the scholarship system. You could use a sponsor for your land, but I think mostly of the Overworld. If you could sponsor people in the Overworld where you provide them the fuel and shards and they spend the time out in that Overworld gathering Illuvials and resources, and then you take a cut of that return. Really what you're looking at is the Overworld, which I'm saying is the top pick here, but you're able to scale up because you're actually getting more time in the Overworld. The reason why I'm actually going to put this second from going out in the Overworld yourself is that you have to deal with other people. There is some management involved in that, and you never know how they're going to perform if they're really going out there doing their best and spending the time that you'd like them to spend on the game. So there is a little risk involved there. But that's it. Let me know down below if you think any of this is wrong here. Obviously, this is my opinion. This is for entertainment purposes. Let me know if you see anything different here. And I'd like to come back to this tier list at some point, maybe when the main game comes out, and see if I'd have any changes here. But let me know if there's any other way to earn learn in the Illuvium ecosystem that I don't have on this list that I could add for the next time. And let me know if you like this kind of content. I am thinking of making some tier lists for a couple other things in Illuvium. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out this next video here.